Hello everybody and good morning. This is Anna, also known as Anna Knit on Ravelry, Annalena Knit on Instagram, and Anna Knit Yarns on Etsy. One of you asked me how I knit my socks, and therefore I thought it could be easier to make an own video about this so you can easily find it and I can easily link to it if someone is asking again. Sock knitting is a thing which is typical knitting, right? I know you can crochet socks, but knitting socks is something very special. Many people want to learn it. Many people are in despair when it comes to the heel, and there are so many possibilities nowadays to knit socks. Back then in our grandma's times there was just the a plain ribbing, so a normal ribbing normally, and the heel was simply the heel flap and gusset and some decreasing at the toe. That is how my grandma has knit, and that is, I don't know, the way many people before us only knit. And nowadays there are so many possibilities, and therefore I can understand why you ask me, Anna, how you knit your socks. Okay, I have prepared myself for this video, and I have took some of my socks here to show you how I store them, because that is interesting for many of you. So these aren't all of my socks. One pair I'm wearing, some I have put aside because they are very airy already, but I can't throw them away. For example, my first pair of socks, I can show it here. Some are in the laundry, and many socks I have knit for other people. So only a few. But as you can see, most of them are knit with self-striping yarns. I think here's only, in this case, I have only one patterned sock. It's the blueberry waffle pattern. I have knit cabled socks before, and I tried several sock patterns, but because I love colored socks and self-striping socks, I don't like it paired with a pattern because it's too busy. Okay, let's talk about socks. Okay, first of all, I'm using 6-inch wooden DPNs by Knit Pro. I think they are called Symphonies. I have this set. I have received it for Christmas many years ago because I wanted to have it. It has a range from 2mm up to 4mm. I have filled this one. This was empty, as you can see, with additional 2.5mm needles, because I liked in the past, and maybe I will do this again in the future, I like to knit several socks at a time. By the way, 2 socks at a time on one circular needle using magic loop and so on. I tried it, I didn't enjoy it. Okay, DPNs 6-inch. I prefer the 6-inch because you haven't too much needle going around. It's disturbing me to use the normal length DPNs. I started with them, and I started with metal ones, which always dropped, so fell through the stitches. It was horrible. So I've been there. I know the struggles of beginning to knit socks. So watch videos, learn from our mistakes, and do what we suggest. Use wooden needles. For the very, very, very beginners, bamboo needles might be better because they have more grip. They are not so slippery, and it's easier to keep the stitches on the needle. DPNs 6-inch laminated, I think it's called laminated, wood. Mostly I use 2.5mm needles. For the normal sock yarns, it's the best for my gauge. You have always to try. I know people who use 3mm, there are people who use 2mm or even smaller. For sock yarn like Felici, Regia, Opal, Schachenmeier, all the hard wearing, well, Felici isn't hard wearing, but for all the normal sock yarn brands, for me a 2.5mm is the best. It's the nicest fabric, it's not too tight, it's not too wide or too loose. Yeah, I like it. I use 2mm needles for, wait, I wrote it down, for example, for West Yorkshire spinners, because it's a very thin yarn. I don't know why, because it has the same yardage as the other yarns, but it's much thinner. I don't know. And I have knit, do I have them here? No. I have knit West Yorkshire spinners with a 2.5mm in 2015 or so, when I first started to knit Christmas socks, because I thought, oh, 2.5mm, that's what you do. And they were very, very slouchy and airy. That wasn't the big deal. But because of the loose gauge, I got holes in the socks. Not on the heel, as you might think, or on the toe, as you might think. No, on the sole. And one person told me, you have to knit socks on a tighter gauge, not like, but tighter gauge, to avoid holes in your socks. So gauge is important for sock knitting, but I don't knit swatches for socks. I start to knit, I look at the yarn and now I can tell which needle size I need, but you can simply start with the ribbing. And if you see the ribbing is wiggly, woggly, too airy, you know you have to go down half a needle size. Yeah, it's trial and error, in my opinion. That is that. Now we come to the cuff. I knit cuff down. I have knit one time toe up. I see the benefits of knitting toe up, because you can use up all the yarn and make a very long sock and have no leftovers. That is awesome. I don't like the provisional cast on. That is a thing you need to do if you want to knit toe up. So you can't start right away with knitting, you have to do provisional cast on. I don't like that. I had problems with measuring, because I measure from the center of the heel, of the back side of the heel, until a certain point, and from then on I know I have to start the toe. And with the other way around, I couldn't figure it out correctly with my charts. I will come to sock knitting charts or tables in a few minutes. And yeah, I didn't like the process. It wasn't mindless for me. It didn't feel right. Okay, I knit cuff down. Mostly, I've been through my sock stash. Mostly I knit a 2x2 ribbing. Why? First of all, it is stretchy. 1x1 ribbing is also stretchy and stays very good on the leg, but it looks tidier, in my opinion. The 1x1 ribbing often looks woggly. I don't know why. And it always also depends on the yarn you use. If you use thicker yarn, a thicker sock yarn. I always talk about fingering weight yarn, but there are differences in the, do you call it bouncy? I will show you what I mean. For example, a typical, maybe is there, a typical 2x2 ribbing. This is with 2mm needles, by the way. This is Gnome Acres Pumpkin Spice Latte, and this is 2x2, and it looks tidy. Now I show you also with 2mm needles, so it's a fair comparison. Do you see what I mean? Oh, here is a hole in my sock, by the way. I have to repair it. Yeah, I have to say, Gnome Acres Gnome Acres fingering weight yarn, in my opinion, isn't good for socks. I have often had holes in my Gnome Acres socks. But you see, it's the same needle size. This is 1x1 ribbing, this is 2x2 ribbing. This looks clean and neat. And this looks, I don't know how you would describe it. I say wiggly woggly. Yeah, that's something I don't like. And the process of 2x2 ribbing is more convenient to me. I can't tell you why. It's just like switching every stitch, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, I don't get into the rhythm so good. But yeah, I can do it, but I don't like the end result. That is the main point here. Okay, the length of my cuff. I have measured all my cuffs in these two sock drawers, I call them. I am knitting mostly 3.5 to 5 centimeters. This is 1.5 inch to 2 inches. 2x2 ribbing, 1.5 to 2 inches. If you want to be able to fold them down, like so, you should knit 9 centimeters, that would be 3.5 inches. Okay, or like here, it's from here to here. Sorry, I don't know why there's always hair. If you want to be able to fold it down. I never fold my cuffs down when I am wearing the socks. Maybe it looks cute with leggings or so, but I don't wear them, so I don't do that. But although you might not want to fold it down, it's very convenient, it's very cozy, snuggly to have a long cuff. I am very impatient when it comes to the ribbing part. But when I start to knit the ribbing in the self-patterning sock, it's okay for me. Mostly I only do the contrast on heel and toe, because ribbing isn't the most fun thing to do, in my opinion, and it helps me to use a fun yarn to get through this process, and therefore I can knit longer cuffs. Okay, my cuffs, 1.5 to 2 inches. If you want to have a long cuff or a foldable cuff, 3.5 inches. Now we come to the leg. I'm measuring my leg, inclusive the cuff, like this. I don't use a measuring tape for that. If I knit a normal length cuff, I can show you with this one. Yeah. Wait, maybe it's easier to do it like this. I do this, and when I have reached this point, this is about, hang loose, this is about 20 centimeters, I think, for most of our women hands. And then I know, okay, I can start the heel. Okay. This has a longer leg, but also around-ish. This is a shorter sock. This is a very tight sock. I used less stitches, therefore it looks very untidy. So this is a shorter one. This is a homespun house, by the way. This is, you see, about 2.5 centimeters smaller, and I realized that I don't like shorter legs. So the best leg for me is this length, and this is about 20 centimeters. Okay. Mostly I'm knitting plain vanillas, as I told you. So the only pattern I really enjoy, also with self-striping, if it's only striping and not patterning, like Norwegian patterning, I like the blueberry waffle pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Now we come to the heel. Which heel do I use? That is, for most of you, the most important question. When I knit my first sock, I did the traditional heel, flap and gusset, just because that was, or that still is, the heel in most of the German patterns. When I started to knit quite seriously, I used German patterns because I wasn't able to translate the specific knitting terms from English to German, and especially the knitting abbreviations. I didn't know what is SSK or M1L or all these abbreviations. I was learning a new technique. I had to deal with handling DPNs, and in addition to that, I had to translate into in my own language. No, I didn't want to deal with that. So I looked through YouTube. There was a German YouTube tutorial, and the written instructions on my charts I had, or patterns I had, that guided me through, especially YouTube guided me through heel, flap and gusset. Then I discovered Stacey Perry from Very Pink Knits, and she is the best knitting teacher, especially for beginners. I was able to follow her, although I wasn't understanding everything she said, because words like heel, flap, heel, okay, but flap and gusset isn't a word you learn at school as a German in the English lessons. Even these easy words for you English speaking people, easy words, were new to me. So I had to, or short row, I didn't even know what this was in German, so how should I know what this is in English? You know what I mean? So with Stacey Perry I could easily follow. So a mixture of a German and a tutorial by Stacey Perry helped me through the heel, flap and gusset. I think I don't have to tell about heel, flap and gusset because that is a very common way. I know there are, or I think there are different types of heel flaps, but I don't think that there are different types of gussets. For example, many I saw in many podcasts a patterned heel flap, like with, it looked like not dropped stitches, knit below or so. I don't know. It looked the partridge heel or so it's called, but I don't know. I have only knit the traditional heel flap and gusset on my first sock. Then I felt more self-confident and I started to look for short row heels. And here in Austria, Germany, we call a certain heel with German short rows boomerang Ferse. So a boomerang because it has the shape of a boomerang. I want to show you in a... I show you why we call it boomerang. Because it looks like a boomerang. And the heel flap and gusset is more, it's more like an L shape, the letter L. Okay, the boomerang heel. Therefore we use German short rows. So the first short rows I learned were German short rows because we only call them short rows because they aren't specific to us. You call them German short rows. We only call them short rows. And so we use this double stitch. You know, you slip a stitch, take the yarn in front of the work, then pull it over the needle, pull tight, and then you have created 2 stitches or 2 loops out of 1 stitch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, hop over to Stacey Perry, Very Pink Knits, and type in German short rows. She is explaining them very well, and I know that many American people prefer German short rows over the wrap and turn heel. Okay, I started to knit a boomerang heel with German short rows. Because I was a beginner knitter, I didn't like the process of the German short rows because I thought I had to pull very tight and I was very cramped like this and my neck started to hurt and my fingers, and I was a very tight knitter back then and it was very uncomfortable for me. And then I found the wrap and turn heel, and I know many of you don't like the wrap and turn heel because you have to pick up the wraps. I don't care about it. I actually really love to knit the heel. I know for many people the heel is the part of a sock you want to get through very quickly. I enjoy it. I don't know why. You have to do something with the short rows and the wrap and turns. For me, it's fun. Okay, short row heel. The toe. I don't do anything fancy about it. I have tried the Kitchener stitch to have a clean finish. First, I don't like the process. Second, I don't like the look. Third, I don't like the fit. It's not a natural fit on my toe of my body, so I don't like that. I do simple decreases. When I have reached the length, when I have reached the length of my, I can show you here. The length of my foot, I start to decrease on the left and on the right side. On the right side of the decrease, so here is the sock, and on this side I'm doing slip slip knit, and here I do knit two together. Then I come here and I'm doing slip slip knit, knit two together, because they create a left or a right leaning decrease. For more information about that and the structure of knitting and the structure of increases and decreases, left leaning, right leaning, straight, hop over to Stacey Perry, Very Pink Knits. She is the master of explaining these things. So I do this 2 times every 3rd row, and then 3 to 4 times every 2nd row, and then every row, until I have 2 to 3 stitches on every needle of my DPNs. So I have 8 to 12 stitches left, and then I pull the yarn through, pull it, and sew in the ends. So that is it, what I do about my toes. That is the toe that fits me well, that looks nice, that is quick, that is easy, that is mindless. I love it. Now we come to numbers. First of all, how many stitches do I have to cast on for my sock size and so on? I don't know how it is with American or British sock yarns, but our sock yarns often come with patterns like this. Not so big, because that was a huge sock set. But we have often a chart, a table, like this. And there you have the shoe size, then the stitches you need to cast on, then the width of your heel, that is always 2 needles, the stitches you have on 2 needles. So for example, for my shoe size, I cast on in total 64 stitches. That makes 16 stitches on every needle if you use DPNs. And the heel always is worked over 2 of the 4 needles, so 32 stitches. Then they tell you how you have to divide your stitches of the heel if you do a short row heel. And I always divide them, I try to divide them by 3. So you have to divide them by 3. If you have, for example, 30 stitches, so 15 stitches on every needle. Which foot size would this be? 38, 39, okay. I don't know the shoe size in US. So for example, if you have 15 stitches on every needle, so 60 stitches in total, it's easy to divide 15 in addition to 15 are 30, you divide by 3 is 10, 10, 10. And then you do the short rows in both directions. If you knit socks already, you know what I'm talking about. For me, it's 32 stitches. The stitches of 2 needles are 32 stitches. It's not possible to divide this by 3 and have 3 even numbers. So I always do the rest of the stitches in the middle. So 10, 12, 10. Because I can't do 10, 10, 10. I have 2 stitches more. So I always put the rest of it in the middle of the divided stitches. But they tell you how you can do this. So for example, for They do it in another way. For example, in my shoe size, they recommend doing 11, 10, 11. Maybe I should try this. For two shoe sizes bigger, it's 11, 12, 11, or 12, 12, 12, or 10, 10, 10, or 9, 10, 9. They tell you how to do this. It's so easy. Then they tell you the foot length, inclusive the heel, until you have to start the toe. And then the foot length in total. I tell you that because I hear many podcasters say, I knit so and so many rows of cuff. I knit so and so many rows for the leg. And I see them marking every 10th row of their leg with a clippy marker to know how many rows they have knit. And I find this not helpful. You have to have tools, you have to count. It's not practical at all. We Germans learn to knit socks with centimeters. So as I told you, I measure the leg like this, or you can measure with a measuring tape. The normal sock leg length is 20 centimeters, what every pattern is calling for. But now we come to the foot. So the part between the heel and the toe. That is what varies with shoe sizes, because the heel is you can't change the length of the heel because you have your stitches. Your heel will be like this, and your toe will be like this, and this is the part that varies from shoe size to shoe size. And we measure from the back of the heel so and so many centimeters, depends on your shoe size, where to start the toe. For example, in my case, shoe size 39 to 40, German shoe size, it tells me to knit 20 to 21 centimeters. So they say 39, shoe size 39, 20 centimeters, shoe size 40, 21. I always do something in between, so I do 20 and a half because I have a shoe size in between. Or if you have shoe size 42, 43, you have to knit 22 centimeters until you start the toe. That is so easy. You don't have to count. You have once in a while to measure. And to be honest, I only measure the first sock. When I have finished the first sock, what is very easy if you do contrasting heel and so on, I simply, when I'm knitting and I want to see when I do have to start the toe, I hold them next to each other and measure like this, and then I see, oh, I still have to knit one repeat, or I still have to knit 4 rounds. It's socks, it's not rocket science. You don't have to be so very tidy and so on. So let me think, is there anything else? Oh yes, this chart. So not specifically this, but a free chart of, I think, Regia yarns is available for 4-ply, 6-ply and 8-ply sock yarn. And because I was asked many times how I knit my socks and how many stitches and so on, I have made a project page, I will link it down below, only for these sock knitting tables. You find the instructions with centimeters and German sizes, so you have to translate them in US, but it is very easy to do. Everything for 4-ply, 6-ply and 8-ply sock yarn, because that's the thing we have here. Here, for example, this is a so-called 6-ply sock yarn. You can find it if you type in Google Regia 6-ply sock yarn. It's slightly thicker. I would say it's a heavy fingering or a light DK. It's something in between that. Do I have another one here? Yeah, or this one is also 6-ply. Normally I knit 4-ply. Sometimes for big feet and for gift knitting I use 6-ply, and 8-ply is very thick. With 8-ply sock yarn you can't fit in your shoes. It's more for the house or bedtime socks, if you want to have warm feet in your bed. Yeah, that is everything I can tell you about sock knitting. If you are afraid of knitting socks, there is no reason to be afraid, really, because I think it can be overwhelming because there are so many techniques. There are 2 sock yarn needles, there are the flexi flips, the DPNs, magic loop, 9-inch circulars. I have tried 9-inch circulars, I hate them. Calf down, toe up. Then you have all the different heels. Afterthought heel, heel flap and gusset, short row heel, fish lips kiss heel is I think a short row heel. I have never tried it. I have bought the pattern, but I have never tried it. Yeah, I can understand that it is overwhelming. In my opinion, for a beginner, it's the best to do DPNs, cuff down, heel flap and gusset or short row. It's both easy, and vanilla sock. That's it. Yeah. That is how I knit my socks. Oh, I had sock blockers here because I thought it would be easier to show you everything, but as you see, you don't need sock blockers. You can do it without. It's just a podcaster thing. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have still questions, please write in the comments down below or contact me via Ravelry. I will link everything I have talked about in the description field below. I'm wishing you much fun with your sock knitting. Don't be afraid, it's easy and you will love it. See you soon. Bye bye.